Why did the world's biggest weapons buyer suddenly become a threat to global arms dealers? What happened behind closed doors that military experts never saw coming? While superpowers were busy flexing their muscles and making headlines, something extraordinary was brewing in India. Something that would shake the foundations of global military power. Something that would prove to the world that dependence can transform into dominance, and weakness can become unmatched strength. This isn't just another defense story. This is about a nation that was humiliated for decades, forced to beg for weapons, forced to rely on others for its own survival. And then one day that nation decided enough was enough. What India built in the shadows will make every military strategist rethink everything they thought they knew about power, technology, and the future of warfare itself. Before diving into missiles and fighter jets, let's talk about something that works in complete silence. Something invisible yet more powerful than any weapon you can see. Meet Param Rudra, India's indigenous supercomputing network. While the world was focused on visible military hardware, India was building the brain that would make everything else possible. Param Rudra is among India's fastest domestically developed supercomputers, deployed at multiple defense research locations across the country. It's part of India's national supercomputing mission, with systems like Param City ranked in the global top 500 most powerful computers. But what does a supercomputer actually do for defense? It simulates nuclear tests without detonating a single bomb. It calculates missile trajectories in milliseconds that would take human scientists years to compute. It powers artificial intelligence warfare systems that predict enemy movements before they happen. It processes battlefield data in real time, coordinating thousands of moving pieces across land, sea, air, and space. This is the invisible brain calculating everything else that India has built. The drone swarms moving in perfect synchronization, the missile paths adjusting mid-flight to hit moving targets, the fighter jet maneuvers that seem impossible, the satellite data processing that guides weapons with pinpoint accuracy. All of it runs through supercomputers like Param Rudra, crunching numbers and making split-second decisions faster than any human command center ever could. And here's what truly matters. While other countries buy computing power from abroad, creating another dependency, India built its own. Complete technological independence. The brain inside India's military revolution is entirely Indian. This invisible weapon grows stronger every single day, learning, adapting, becoming smarter with every simulation and every calculation. Now let's talk about something that makes enemy commanders lose sleep at night, the BrahMos missile system. This is where physics meets fear, where speed becomes an unstoppable advantage. BrahMos is the world's fastest cruise missile in operation. It screams through the air at Mach 3, 3 times the speed of sound. That's so fast that by the time enemy radar systems detect it, by the time officers shout warnings, by the time defense systems try to respond, it's already over. You literally have seconds before impact, and those seconds aren't enough. Let's put this speed into perspective that hits hard. BrahMos can strike a target 290 kilometers away in just 3 minutes. That's faster than most countries can even scramble their defenses. It's faster than emergency protocols can activate. It's faster than escape is possible. And here's the terrifying reality for any potential adversary. These missiles are extremely difficult to intercept. The combination of supersonic speed, incredible maneuverability, and low-altitude flight profiles makes them nearly impossible to stop. It's like trying to catch a bullet with bare hands while blindfolded. Originally co-developed with Russia, India has now taken complete ownership. Advanced versions of BrahMos are being developed entirely by Indian engineers with Indian technology, and this missile can be launched from anywhere. Fighter jets, warships, submarines, ground vehicles. It's everywhere, watching, waiting, ready. But India isn't satisfied with being the fastest. They're developing BrahMos NG, the next generation. Smaller, lighter, even faster, more maneuverable. This represents a weapon system that can be deployed in even more scenarios, creating a defensive umbrella that few can penetrate. And here's the part that should make every Indian proud. This isn't borrowed technology with an Indian badge. This is indigenous innovation that rivals and surpasses what the traditional military powers have built. This is India telling the world that the days of begging for weapons are over. Remember when border security meant soldiers standing in -20-degree cold at 18,000 feet, watching empty mountains for days, hoping to spot movement before it was too late? Remember when intelligence gathering meant risking lives for every piece of information? India said never again, and they built something revolutionary to prove it. Meet idea-forged technology and the silent guardians they've created. Military drones that have completely transformed how India defends its borders, how it gathers intelligence, how it operates in terrain that was once impossible to monitor. The Switch UAV is a surveillance marvel. This compact machine can fly for over 15 hours straight, operating in temperatures ranging from -20 degrees Celsius to +45 degrees Celsius. From Arctic freeze to desert inferno, this drone keeps watching, keeps recording, keeps protecting. These aren't prototypes gathering dust in research labs. These drones are deployed right now, at this very moment, on India's most sensitive borders. The Indian Army, Navy, Air Force, and paramilitary forces all rely on them. They've logged over 50,000 operational hours in actual combat zones, providing real-time intelligence directly to command centers. 50,000 hours. That's almost 6 years of continuous flight time, in hostile territory, in extreme conditions, performing missions that would have cost countless lives if done by human soldiers. But here's where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. BotLab Dynamics just set a world record that announced India's arrival in drone warfare. They orchestrated 5,000 drones flying in perfect synchronization over Indian skies. 5,000 autonomous machines moving as one, painting the night sky with coordinated light shows that left millions speechless. 5,000 drones creating beautiful patterns in perfect harmony. That's a world record. That's technological mastery that few nations can claim. But here's the military secret that nobody's discussing openly. The exact same artificial intelligence coordination technology that makes 5,000 drones create stunning light displays can be repurposed for swarm warfare. If Indian engineers can make 5,000 drones paint the sky with beauty, imagine what they can deploy in combat. Drone swarms that think collectively. Drone swarms that adapt to enemy countermeasures. Drone swarms that overwhelm defense systems through sheer numbers and coordinated intelligence. Major military powers around the world have drone swarm capabilities, but India just demonstrated they can coordinate more drones simultaneously than almost anyone else on Earth. These aren't future technologies. They're flying right now, watching every inch of India's borders 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never blinking, never sleeping, never missing a threat. For decades, India bought fighter jets from other countries. Russian Sukhoi, French Rafales, American aircraft. Every purchase was necessary but painful. Every imported fighter was a reminder that India's skies were protected by someone else's engineering. But that humiliating era is ending with the roar of indigenous engines. The Tejas Mark II is rolling off production lines right now, a completely indigenous multi-role fighter jet, designed in India, built in India, powered by Indian technology. Every line of code, every composite material, every weapon system developed by Indian minds and Indian hands. But if Tejas represents capability, then AMCA represents ambition at its most audacious. The Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft, India's fifth-generation stealth fighter. Let those words sink in. Fifth generation, stealth, indigenous. What does fifth generation actually mean? It means the aircraft is nearly invisible to enemy radar systems. It means super cruise capability, supersonic speeds without afterburners. It means advanced avionics that can track dozens of targets simultaneously while remaining undetected. It means weapon systems that rival anything the traditional military superpowers have developed. The AMCA will feature an internal weapons bay, keeping missiles hidden inside the aircraft's body to maintain its stealth profile. It will be powered by indigenous engines that India is developing right now, breaking the final chain of foreign dependency. Compare this to other fifth-generation fighters around the world. The speed, the stealth characteristics, the weapons payload, the combat radius. AMCA competes at the absolute highest level. This isn't an imitation. This isn't licensed technology with an Indian badge slapped on. This is pure Indian innovation standing toe-to-toe with the best that Russia, America, and China have produced. The test footage shows high-energy maneuvers that match anything from Western or Eastern powers. Barrel rolls that defy gravity, supersonic passes that shake the ground, weapons tests that demonstrate lethal accuracy. This is India announcing to the world with deafening clarity, the days of buying fighters are over. India builds its own. And when AMCA takes to the skies operationally, every neighboring adversary will know that Indian airspace is protected by Indian ingenuity, not foreign generosity. Everything you've read about so far, the supercomputers, the missiles, the drones, the fighters, all of it depends on something tiny. Something most people never think about but is absolutely critical: semiconductor chips. These tiny pieces of silicon act as the brain for modern military technology. Every fighter jet, every missile guidance system, every drone, every radar installation runs on semiconductor chips. They're the processors that calculate targeting data, the circuits that run artificial intelligence combat systems, the components that make all of India's military technology actually function. For decades, India depended entirely on other countries for these chips, and that was a massive, terrifying vulnerability. What happens if supply chains break during a conflict? What happens when the chips that guide your missiles come from a country that's suddenly not friendly? What happens when your entire military could be disabled because someone else controls the semiconductor supply? India looked at this vulnerability and said never again. They launched a $10 billion semiconductor manufacturing initiative. The Tata Group is building massive chip fabrication plants in Gujarat with PowerChip Semiconductor. These aren't facilities to make chips for phones and computers. This is about manufacturing the specialized chips that go inside missiles, that power radar systems, that run fighter jet avionics. This is about making the circuits that process targeting data in milliseconds, the processors that run AI combat systems, the chips that make all of India's military technology work independently. Breaking dependence on foreign technology means achieving true strategic independence. If conflict erupts, India won't need to beg other nations for the components that make their weapons operational. They'll manufacture everything themselves, from raw materials to finished products. India is becoming the brain inside every weapon system it deploys. Indigenous chips, indigenous design, complete control over the entire supply chain from start to finish. This is sovereignty in its purest form. Now, how did India make all of this possible? How does a nation transform from importer to innovator so rapidly? The answer lies in places like Dholera Smart City. Imagine a city built from absolute scratch, not just buildings and roads, but an entire urban ecosystem where artificial intelligence manages everything. Traffic lights that predict congestion before it happens and adjust automatically. Power grids that balance energy loads across millions of connection points in real time. Water systems monitored constantly across vast networks, preventing waste and ensuring efficiency. Dholera is India's first AI-powered megacity, designed to eventually house 2 million people. And here's what's absolutely fascinating from a military perspective. The entire city exists as a digital twin. Every building, every street, every utility line is replicated in virtual simulation. Why does this matter for defense? Because the same AI systems managing traffic in Dholera are the foundation for managing drone swarms in combat. The same digital twin technology used for urban planning is adapted for battlefield simulations. The same real-time data processing that balances power grids is used to coordinate missile strikes. Smart cities aren't just about civilian convenience. They're testing grounds for military artificial intelligence. They're proving grounds for technologies that will reshape warfare. They're laboratories where India experiments with the future before deploying it on battlefields. Dholera represents India's commitment to building not just weapons, but the entire technological ecosystem that makes advanced weapons possible. Now let's look up, beyond the atmosphere, to where the real strategic advantage is being built. The Gaganyaan space program. India is sending humans to space, with the first crewed mission scheduled between 2025 and 2026. But this isn't just about national pride or exploring the cosmos or planting flags. This is about military dominance from orbit. Space infrastructure powers absolutely everything you've read about. The drones tracking border movements, guided by satellites, the BrahMos missiles hitting targets with pinpoint accuracy, satellite navigation, the fighter jets coordinating in real time across vast distances, satellite communications, the intelligence gathering that predicts enemy movements, satellite surveillance. India's IRNSS navigation system is their own version of GPS. But unlike GPS, which is controlled by America, IRNSS is entirely Indian. During conflict, India won't need to worry about another country turning off the navigation signals that guide its weapons. But here's what's truly strategic, what changes the entire calculus of space-based warfare. India has demonstrated anti-satellite weapons capability. That means if another country tries to blind India's space assets during war, tries to destroy the satellites that guide missiles and coordinate forces, India can retaliate by taking out their satellites too. The message is clear. Control space, control the battlefield. Satellites enable missile guidance. They coordinate drone swarms. They provide real-time intelligence. They make modern warfare possible. And India isn't renting space from other countries or relying on their goodwill. India is launching its own satellites, building its own space stations, creating its own space-based military infrastructure. Everything from orbit is Indian-controlled, Indian-protected, Indian sovereign. Now let's talk about something that sounds like science fiction, but is already operational. DRDO's directed energy weapons, lasers that destroy targets at the speed of light. Imagine this scenario. An enemy drone is approaching a military installation. Traditional response? Fire a missile that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. Hope it hits. Hope the drone doesn't have countermeasures. India's response? Point a laser at it. A concentrated beam of light traveling at 300,000 kilometers per second. The drone's electronics fry instantly. It falls from the sky. Cost of that laser shot? Pennies worth of electricity. DRDO, India's Defense Research and Development Organization, has developed anti-drone laser systems. These are 100-kilowatt laser weapons that can destroy drones, disable incoming missiles, and even damage aircraft. Why is this revolutionary? Because nothing can outrun light. Nothing can dodge something traveling at light speed. Traditional missiles can be evaded. Bullets can miss. But a laser? If it can see you, it can hit you instantly. And the economics are devastating for enemies. Traditional missiles cost millions of dollars each. A laser, pennies of electricity per shot. That means India can fire thousands of defensive shots for the cost of one traditional missile. Enemies would go bankrupt trying to overwhelm such defenses. Future battlefields won't be dominated by bullets and missiles alone. They'll be dominated by directed energy weapons, by technologies that bend the laws of physics to create unstoppable offensive and defensive capabilities. And India isn't waiting for that future. India is building it right now. Let's step back and see what all of this actually means. Why does it matter that India built drones and missiles and supercomputers and smart cities and space programs and laser weapons? Because transformation isn't measured in products. It's measured in independence. Remember where this story began. India was the world's largest arms importer, dependent on Russia for 72% of military equipment. A nation forced to wait for permission to defend itself. A nation whose security was held hostage by foreign supply chains and political considerations. But that reality has been shattered completely. Russia's share of India's arms imports has dropped from 72% to just 36% in recent years. And that remaining percentage continues falling as indigenous alternatives come online. But here's the number that should make every Indian's heart swell with pride. India's defense exports have increased more than tenfold in the last decade, 10 times more than before. Read that again and let it sink in. The world's largest arms importer is now becoming an arms exporter. The nation that couldn't build basic military equipment is now selling sophisticated weapons to other countries. That's not incremental progress. That's transformation so complete, it rewrites India's position in global power structures. India went from buying everything to building alternatives that actually compete with the world's best technology. Indigenous drone swarms watching borders day and night. Hypersonic missiles that cannot be intercepted. stealth fighters designed from scratch by Indian engineers, supercomputers calculating warfare scenarios before conflicts begin, smart cities testing military AI in real-world conditions, indigenous semiconductors powering every critical system, satellites guiding from orbit with Indian control, aircraft carriers patrolling oceans projecting Indian power, laser weapons destroying threats with light, and a digital backbone connecting it all into one integrated network of defense capability. This is what sovereignty looks like in the 21st century. Not just political independence, but technological independence. The ability to design, build, deploy, and maintain every system that keeps the nation safe without asking permission, without waiting for approval, without depending on anyone's goodwill. India didn't just reduce imports. India built an entire ecosystem of indigenous defense technology that makes imports unnecessary. So what is the real story here? What actually happened? India underwent a revolution, not a political revolution, a technological revolution, a psychological revolution, a revolution in self-belief. The nation that was told for decades it couldn't compete, that it would always need foreign help, that it should accept its place as a customer rather than creator, rose up and said no. Indian engineers designed weapons that rival the world's best. Indian scientists built supercomputers that calculate warfare at light speed. Indian companies manufactured semiconductors that power indigenous military systems. Indian innovators created AI that coordinates thousands of drones simultaneously. Indian researchers developed lasers that destroy targets at the speed of light. And they did all of this not by copying, not by stealing, not by begging for technology transfers. They did it through indigenous innovation, through believing in capability when others doubted, through investing in talent when easier paths existed. The transformation isn't complete. Challenges remain. Dependencies still exist in some areas. But the direction is undeniable. India is not just catching up to traditional military powers. In some technologies, India is leaping ahead, from buyer to builder to exporter, from dependence to dominance, from humiliation to pride. That's not just a transformation. That's a revolution that changes how the world thinks about India, how adversaries calculate risk, and how Indians think about their own potential. The question isn't whether India can build advanced military technology anymore. The question is what India will build next and who will be able to keep up. Digital plus indigenous manufacturing equals sovereignty. India just proved this formula works. The world is watching now, and they're realizing the sleeping giant wasn't sleeping. It was building. When a nation that was forced to beg for weapons becomes a nation that exports them, when dependence transforms into dominance, when humiliation breeds determination that births innovation, that's when you know something fundamental has shifted. India's military revolution isn't just about missiles and drones and fighters. It's about proving that any nation, no matter how far behind it seems, can transform itself through vision, investment, and unwavering belief in its own people. So here's the question that should keep global strategists awake at night. If India accomplished this revolution in just one decade, what will they build in the next 10 years?